Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for January 23rd, 2018, 6 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and televised live. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pat, with no disrespect, I am going to move this along because the town clerk has to get back to her office. So if the town clerk is available, we can move forward with the action relative to the deed transfer at 215 College Highway. As the board knows, this was voted on town meeting. It was passed at town meeting. What we need now is the board to vote to formally accept the transfer and receive ownership of the property. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Ed, do you have the?
I have the original deed that
Okay.
members would so sign.
Well, we need the town clerk to witness this. Do you see this?
Yeah, and
okay?
just for the record, this is for $10,000, and the additional $5,000 that was appropriated at the town meeting will be used for legal expenses.
And there's like $2,500 in that for perk tests and septic design. The other $2,500 is for legal expenses. And you got to remember, these things are quasi estimates. These 2,000 numbers. You know, one might be lower, one might be higher. Okay.
See you later.
Thank you, Janine. All right. The next action of the board is appointments. We have a Pat Monahan that wishes to be on the Public Safety Committee. I myself have worked with him for numerous years on numerous projects and would like to see him on this committee. But I'd like to see a motion from the board.
Yeah, I've worked with him too, and I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great addition to the committee.
Did you want him to say a few words, or?
I'd like to hear a second.
Yeah, second.
Did you second it already?
Well, we didn't make a motion yet, we just all said.
I made the
You
motion.
made a motion.
Second.
Okay.
Sorry, wasn't paying attention.
Discussion, would you like to have him come to the podium?
After the vote or now?
May not be familiar with him.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I would say take the vote,
and then why would he come to the podium?
just to say, thank you for putting me on the
Introduce
committee.
yourself and say why you're interested in being in the committee.
Patrick Monahan, well, for starters, on this particular issue, I will tell you right now, I originally brought this up in the year 2001, and as a selectman. And I would like to, shall we say, further it. It went down once already, but I would like to sit on a committee and let's get this thing approved. We know the town certainly needs it. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's in the best interest of the residents and taxpayers. And I would like to sit on that committee and further this thing and bring this project through.
Perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You'll get your papers mailed to you from the town administrator's office, then you get sworn in at the town clerk's office.
So while he's there, when's our next meeting, Charlie?
We have no meeting scheduled.
I know, that's why I brought it up. Should we schedule a meeting?
Yeah, but let's not do it tonight, okay?
Okay.
Only because I need to look at my calendar and everything else.
I have a question. So it's an ad hoc committee that's been going on for a long time. There have been several versions of the committee. Is there a set number of members on the committee, or is it basically open?
There is a set number that was established. I believe there's seats that was open. Jim was supposed to check with the clerk.
Yeah, she told me there was one seat, but I didn't get a total number of the people on the committee.
Yeah, but there was a seat sitting there. So Pat will fill that seat, and we'll go from there. You're absolutely right, John, we need to have another meeting and so. My question is this, because this is what we ran into before. If we set a meeting of the committee, and I have 3 or more select persons on there,
Yeah.
we have to post for the select board meeting.
We could have a joint meeting.
So are we going to do this as a joint meeting together? Part of the problem when I see a joint meeting is it gets lost in the selectmen's meeting.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well,
The only 2 members that are on it are you and John.
Right.
correct? So, yeah, I don't see a conflict. I'll stay away,
Yeah, me too.
have you report.
That's said. All right, then I'll post the meeting in a few weeks.
do we want to set a date now?
No, I don't have my schedule in front of me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Because only 2 members are on, even though if a 3rd selectman shows up, they're not a voting member, so.
They can sit in the audience. and-
Right,
Correct.
Correct.
right.
It's not now,
Well, the perception at times gets us in trouble. So we're trying to keep it as we can.
Yeah, there's some people who just like to bring up technicalities that aren't really technicalities.
And if there's a need or desire that one of us want to join, then we'll just post it as a
That's right.
Yeah.
And
a joint meeting.
And there's the underlying problem, when we get into these things where people challenge stuff, we end up having to spend money with legal counsel.
Yeah.
So there's an unseen cost to the town when these things happen. So we try as much as we can to be as clear as we can with this. You're smiling, but you know, you've been there. All right, very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat.
We have no hearings. So the next thing is reports. Ed, would you like to report first?
Certainly.
Your mic's off. You just push the button there. Yeah.
All right. Just some updates. The funding articles from the special town meeting are currently being recorded by the town accountant. The regular town bylaws that were approved or amended at the special town meeting will be sent to the Attorney General for approval by the end of this week by the town clerk. I had an opportunity last Friday to tour the fire and ambulance station next door, so I was happy to be able to check out that facility. The highway superintendent gave me a tour of a small portion of town on Monday for a couple of issues. Today, the highway department was dealing with some overnight icing and street flooding issues during the day. I did attend the MPO meeting this morning with the Board of Selectmen chairman and the highway superintendent, and was delighted to see some items on the tip for the town of Southampton, which I know the chairman will elaborate on later on. This week, the Southampton Elementary School had contacted us that the state is requiring they perform an audit for fiscal year 2017. You may recall that the auditors were in here, I think it was the week before last, performing the audit on the town books, and they're still preparing that. Our auditors, Melanson and Heath, have provided us with an engagement letter to perform the school audit for $4,000. The school department was not aware of this requirement because it is a single elementary school in Southampton. They only have to perform, they're only required by the state to perform an audit every 3 years, and fiscal year 17 was that year. We will have to transfer funds from vocational tuition later in the year to cover this expense, and the select board may authorize me to sign the engagement letter, or the chairman may sign it for the town. I do have the engagement letter here this evening. I did sign the Council of Aging formula grant for the state earlier today in the amount of $11,718, so it could be submitted to the state and be funded. The Zoning Board of Appeals has 2 upcoming scheduled hearings for February 5th. As you recall, for the month of December, that they did not have any hearings. I would like to reiterate that everyone here has been extremely helpful to me as I get my feet wet, including this week with Velda being out sick. So I would like to extend my thanks. Upcoming, the next Board of Selectmen's meeting is our February 6th and 20th, and there will be a department heads meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, January 24th at 10 a.m.
We both got text. Thanks, Brian.
Okay, are we aware of the fact that there's no video on this link?
Yeah,
Is there sound?
yeah, no, it's fine right here. It's the broadcasting going back to our server.
Okay, and you're recording it in-house?
Yeah, and everything's getting captured.
All right, I'm just,
But can they hear it at home now, or
Can't see anything at all.
what, can they hear it, do you know?
Nothing. There's no
Nothing.
picture. There's no picture, no nothing.
Okay.
okay,
Everything here is fine. I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
all right. Selectmen's reports?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, there was a question about the Housing Committee. So I did contact everybody in the Housing Committee, and we ended up having a meeting that I attended. And so there is a plan for picking up the mail, and there's a plan for responding to the phone calls that came in. All of the current members attended. And basically, it was really just a review where they're at, what they've been doing, update me. There's some things that we're looking into in terms of affordable housing, particularly around seniors in town. So they're sort of back in business.
Good, good. John, anything?
Nope, nothing since last time.
Jim?
Nothing new?
Nothing new?
No.
All right, well, I have a few updates. First, I got an email about a half an hour ago from Eversource, just so that people know, Eversource is going to be replacing hardware on 16 existing structures on the right-of-way. That's the main transmission lines. So you're looking at Old Long Pond Road, Middle Road, Pequot Road, White Loaf Road, Bissonnet Circle, East Street, County Road, and Cook Road. That's the main transmission line that runs there. That's why you might have seen at the end of East Street and County Road the stockpile of cribbing material and everything else so that they don't impact the environment. That's what that's all about. But they just sent me an email saying they're going to start work on that in January.
Any disruption in service they know of, or just
I'm sorry?
no disruption in service?
I hope not, because if the main power lines go down, it's not going to be
No.
like the town's out. I'm very pleased to announce that our fire department received a grant for student awareness and senior awareness on safety. The total was $6,123. Chief, department, well done. I also sit on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is through Pioneer Valley Planning. This is the group that oversees the federal and state monies that come to this region for construction of highways and roadways and bridges and so on and so forth. We reviewed the 2019 developing budget. This does not mean it's cast in stone, but I want people to be aware of the fact that there's a number of things that are going to be planned on for 2019. One is Route 10 in the corridor between East Hampton and Southampton. They've set aside $2,800,000 for reworking that stretch of road out there. Second is
Could you
the...
just speak, what area of Route 10?
Well, because the designation is sort of broad, it says East Hampton, Southampton, Route 10. It doesn't narrow it down to the exact. If I was to do an educated guess, I would say that it's probably starting where that curve is in East Hampton, because that's where the state highway begins, and running into Southampton, and if I was to guess, it's probably going to stop at the bridge. But those are guesses at this point. The real question comes up of how are they going to be addressing traffic in the Big Y area. This is early yet, but that money's starting to be put into the budget for 2019. That probably means that construction will be 2020. The next item is Glendale Road. They still have $2,700,000 set aside to do that project. We're going to have an update, you'll see this in the agenda, with the highway superintendent in our next meeting, because right now he's in the process of negotiations for easement. But that's $2,700,000 on that project. They've also earmarked for 2019 $5 million to work between College Highway and the East Street Bridge, that roadway. And finally, the Greenway bike path, they put aside $6 million plus on construction.
For just ours or in general?
Southampton.
Nice.
So that would be from East Hampton to Route 10 in Southampton, the College Highway, over down by the
What fiscal year?
2019. Everything is 2019 that I told you. And you have to understand, the way this goes is these are 5-year plans.
Yep.
Allocations of money may be set up for 2019, but they don't actually see any physical activity until 2020.
Yep.
But Southampton is now on the list. That in of itself is monumental. So be aware that those activities are going on.
Now, if we can only get the title
The title?
to the property. With the railroad.
Which property? Oh, the
Railroad.
Well, we got to go into executive session and talk about that.
Yeah.
I just listed such a long list of properties, I was like, which one is he talking about? Okay, any old business? All right. I requested that we put down traffic speed limit study, College Highway in the vicinity of Pomeroy Meadow Road. That's between Pomeroy Meadow Road and Gunn Road. Now that we've rebuilt that roadway, if you want to try a little experiment, the speed limit there is 40 miles an hour. Go 40 miles an hour. I really think that we need to request the state to do a traffic study to determine what should be the safe speed limit there. Police chief's fine with this idea.
Is it, right now it's 40 throughout the entire Route 10?
Well, no, from by King Oak or Grindstone
Yeah.
to on through.
I'm just wondering, right now that's all 40.
Correct. Yeah, 30 ends by the bridge down here, just past the fire station,
As you're going.
as you're going up north.
So given the fact that we have 4 crosswalks there now,
Right.
and 8 signs,
I know.
and 1 blinking light, you know, so I'd like to entertain a motion that the board authorize the town administrator to send a letter to Mass DOT requesting a traffic study.
And what does that involve besides a request?
That's it.
That's it. Got an email here. You get a copy of it?
Yep.
Yeah, it just says, all we do is make the phone call and then we'll study.
Oh, that's worth the study. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have a sense of how long that would take?
A sense.
Is this in fiscal 19?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think they'll do it this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Is fiscal or calendar?
I'm thinking calendar,
Okay.
but
So Charlie, right now, all the lights work now, there's no problem with that. There's still a sign, street sign that's not up, with a barrel still is. But other than that, is it, for all intents and purposes, done?
it is my understanding that they increased the capacity of the batteries and they increased the size of the solar unit so that it recharges the batteries better. That's the reason they were failing. So I believe all that is done. The only thing that I'm aware of is that they forgot to take the sign down on the street next to Parker and O'Grady, and that the street sign on College Highway by Pomeroy Meadow Road was totaled, and that requires ordering a new sign, and that's a process to get that to happen.
That was found up in West Hampton.
That was, the sign was found in West Hampton?
Yep.
They hit it that hard?
Was it hit or stolen?
Both.
Both.
One hit it, the other took it.
Okay.
So that's why the barrel's still there, that's the last that has to be done.
That's just, but they got to order a sign and all the rest of that, so it's like, somebody, when the sign got hit, somebody put the sign up on the ground thinking that people would at least know what the streets are, so somebody else thought it was a great souvenir. Anyways, so that's where we are with that. Clarification on spending allocations monies from town meeting, example, old town hall monies. And I just need to make sure I understand this. Most of the time when we had articles that were written, they would say up to would be authorized. These articles didn't say that. These articles said this would be X amount of money. I'm of the impression that if we allocated X amount of money and somebody decided to, and I'm not picking, I'm just saying, somebody from the, on the project says, okay, but I was able to get it at a reduced rate, the rest of that money doesn't stay in their expense account. I mean, let's the $30,000 going in for the old town hall, that's going into a selectman's account. If we ended up going out to bid and spent $25,000, where would that other $5,000 go? Would it not go back from the account we drew from?
Doesn't Vicky pull that back at the end of the year? Doesn't she look at that, what was spent, what wasn't spent, and pull it back?
Well, the two normal processes would be, and I'm just going to use the 30,000 with the 25,000. If there was 5,000 sitting there at the end of the year, there are three opportunities. One is, we're not done, please carry the money over till next year, stays in that account. Two is, we're through with that money, please close out that account at the end of the year, it's going to end up flowing to free cash. Number three, and I think this is maybe where you're getting with some of them, if you're trying to put it back into capital stabilization or operating stabilization, if you had funding sitting there and actually wanted it to go back to those accounts.
I'm more concerned that it's going to end up, it's going to sit in an account, not be utilized, and then they want to utilize it. And it's not CPA money, by the way. I'm just
Okay.
using the
The old town hall is the wrong example then, because that is CPA.
I know, but I've learned by experience here that when I actually bring up a department, then the next thing is everybody assumes that the reality of that's happening.
Yeah.
So you're a very neutral party.
But it does go back to the community
I understand that.
preservation.
And
She's
yes,
still
you-
not letting you get away with
yeah,
it, Charlie.
yeah, you,
I'm not going to let you.
in that particular case, you would notify the CPC that we have $5,000 in excess funds. We are returning that to you, we did not spend it, and we'll go back in there.
I'm more concerned with money that goes into department budgets. I don't want to see it get lost in the department budgets when it wasn't allocated for their yearly expenses.
Then probably what I will do as the chief financial officer side of my job description is go back through those town meeting articles, and I will directly notify by letter the department heads involved, and basically telling them these funds are to be used for this particular purpose and this particular purpose alone.
Yeah, that's what it was voted for.
You're right.
I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm just,
Yeah, like I said, I think Vicky keeps track of it, but I also think that if there's 30,000 in there, if you will, Vicky gets the invoices, she charges against the account, and that's how she keeps track of what's spent and what's not spent, and at the end of the year, she brings it back to us.
Usually when the line items are traded, it's usually like items. It's not necessarily out of, you know what I mean? I mean, when, last year, that's the way it was, so I don't want to get lost either.
Yeah.
all I'm doing is just sort of refortifying the issue to make sure that people understand that.
Yeah, it's not a department slush fund after that.
That's right.
Right, I think,
Fully
that's a good
understood.
idea.
All right. Next thing is discussion of Proposition 2.5 override projected budgets. If we are going to move forward with a Prop 2.5 override, which I personally believe should be a general budget. And I think we're looking at $500,000. We are going to need to set a town election prior to town meeting. I'm not looking to do that tonight, but I think we need to understand in the next month or so, we need to nail down exactly how we're going to strategize this. I'm also thinking, and it's only me thinking here, I want the board to chime in, of two budgets. Budget A being that 2.5 gets approved, and this is where we're going. Budget B is 2.5 doesn't get approved, and this is where we're at. So when we go to town meeting, we are already set to know which way this is going to go.
Is the only downside of having the election first is we've spent the money for the election. If it doesn't pass town meeting, we've wasted that money, where the other way around, we don't have an election unless it's needed by vote at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're tight in, $2,000-3,000,
Could make a recommendation, Bob Fletcher, 22 Gun Road. The last time you guys asked, or not you as a board, but the board asked for 2.5 override, they said, we think we need $1 million. And they went into it with that attitude, and the voters said, is it $1 million? Is it $750,000? And the voters got very angry because it was just give us what we're asking for. And I think if you came at the voters and said, we need $550,000 and had it pinned right down, a realistic number.
A real number.
And I would think the town accountant could do that. And I think the voters would be more comfortable saying, this is what our revenues are projected, and this is what we need. I think you may get a more positive reaction out of it than what we did last time.
I think Charlie's two budgets does exactly what you want. If we get the 500, here's what we get for services. If we don't, here's what we get, and let them look at them and decide what's important.
But what I'm saying is, if you had a very close number as to what you needed, and even if you say, we need $500,000, people are still looking at it and saying, it looks like you're throwing a number at us, where if you said, if it was $546,000, the voters say, it looks like they've done their homework on this.
And that's what this would do.
Yeah, well, the last override was only for, what, 125,000?
Yeah.
Specifically for the schools. We had a number there for that, and it did not pass. So,
There is another positive swing on this, and I got to check with Vicki, but my understanding is that we are going to retire some debt this coming year. So it may be that with an override, our tax bill actually isn't going to go up much. I'm saying much because that's an unknown number right now. But because we're retiring some debt, that's going to lower our taxes. So it may be that we're actually just asking everybody to keep their taxes pretty close to what it is.
And I don't know if I got the right number, isn't it around the 150,000 this year versus a bigger one next year?
There's a bigger one in 2020, that's, I believe, the regional school debt.
So we've got to check that and have the facts.
Oh, yeah, the whole purpose of me bringing this up now is to start the dialogue.
Yeah, no, I
Not
think-
to walk in here and say, we're doing A, B, and C, and E,
Yep.
because
No, I think
I
it's
can't
good.
even get to E at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we know what we're voting for and what services it's going to increase,
Right.
decrease, I think.
right.
But what I'd like to do is set the tone so that our new town administrator has a handle on what's being expected, and he can follow this up and get back to us, and we'll go from there.
It will be a finite number. It won't be a guesstimate. You'll be able to pin it to the actual services that go along with it.
And people can vote the way they feel.
Yep.
Yes.
Any more discussion on this?
No.
Next thing is District Local Technical Assistance Program. This is interesting.
And this I brought up at the last meeting, and what I did, the actual list you can actually utilize it for is probably longer than my arm, so I just tried to go through it and tried to pick out items that I have either heard the Board of Selectmen or other people say they might be interested in. The first thing that came to mind was municipal IT assessments. However, I've been told that Pioneer Valley's IT assessment team is overloaded at this point, that we could do it through a community compact, but it probably wouldn't occur until next fiscal year. But I did want to make you know that that's one of the possible uses. So once I was kind of disappointed in that particular answer, and that went along with that one, develop a comprehensive IT strategy. But here were some of the other things I saw on the list that may be interested or may not be interested in. Hold in-service training programs for police for incidents involving domestic violence, mental health disorders, and substance abuse. I know the police are constantly looking for training. Prepare a capital improvement plan. There is an item to develop a master plan. I am not sure after the last meeting if we would be able to use the DLTA to try to implement a master plan or not, but it's something that could be asked of Pioneer Planning if you so wished. Could establish a farmer's market. Could increase agricultural marketing to enhance awareness of and patronage of local agricultural businesses, which there are still plenty of farms here in Southampton. Support local horticultural and floricultural to benefit local businesses. Develop a workplace safety plan. Look at regionalization of Board of Health services or shared emergency dispatch services. Those last ones have been some popular ones throughout the state and Western Mass to look at. But if anything jumps out at the board, I can follow up on it, or if there are 2 or 3 items here, I can go back to Pioneer Valley Planning and get some more information on those particular items and bring it back to the board.
I spoke to the chairman of the Board of Health, and he is interested in this. Who has the keys to technology?
Is that right there?
Yeah, no, downstairs.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Ed, you got the master key?
I do. I was trying not to interrupt, sorry.
You did a great job.
That's the one you need right there.
This is almost like shout and yell and just keep going, and here we go. I talked to the chairman of the Board of Health in town, and we talked about this. Obviously, from my background, I know a lot about regional public health and that, and he was interested in exploring that, the possibility of us getting funding to hire a consultant to do an evaluation not only of this Board of Health, but the surrounding ones. And to be quite blunt, we weren't looking at Hoyoke and we weren't looking at Westfield, but the possibility of East Hampton, West Hampton, and maybe some kind of a shared service type arrangement. So I don't know how this board feels about it, but, and I'm evidently inspecting the Winter Festival in East Hampton February 10th, which means I'll probably be connecting with people there too.
Need an assistant?
It's a great gig,
I
I'm
bet.
telling you, man. I get to spend the day serving chili to everybody, and everybody keeps asking what's wrong.
Yeah. Wait till they eat the chili.
Yeah, come back, tell me later. But all kidding aside, that's one.
Well, I think IT is a big interest of mine in terms of looking at a comprehensive system, but I hear you, Ed, that may not be a front burner thing because of the capacity. I have a question about develop a workplace safety plan. I didn't see in the agenda the recent information about the generator, so I didn't know if that was going to be mentioned, but is there currently a plan, a safety plan, that involves Norris School and this building? I know there's an evacuation plan when I was in the Board of Health. That was part of what we did, whether or not it's been updated, re-looked at, or whatever, but that seems like it would be an important thing to do, especially given the likelihood of getting a generator, if not for this building, for the other one too.
I wasn't going to bring the generator up until we had confirmation, but it appears that the state is going to be giving us a grant to purchase a generator for this building.
Hopefully I'll have more on that for the next meeting.
Okay. Do you know if there's a safety plan in terms of this building on Norris as the two?
Not that I'm aware of. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm just,
Well, that would be one that I.
and that's the
would
problem. If we don't know about it,
Yeah,
what good's
right.
the plan?
I can do some research and see what I can find out on that.
I know the Board of Health has an evacuation plan, because I know that I've seen the actual blueprint of, where everything's marked, where's the, where the various fire extinguishers, exits, the whole thing's laid out, where you would put cots and things like that, but I don't know if it's been looked at, updated, or whatever. That would be important, I think.
Where was that, like the Wilmy Norris
It
School?
was in it was at the Norris School.
Norris School.
Because I think that's the designated site
The-
for a shelter.
The ongoing the discussion that went on was the North School, the church, and this building.
Right,
All three don't have any generator support.
right.
And that was the Achilles heel of the whole thing, because you'd probably need the shelter when you have no power. That's what caused us to lobby the state to get funding to put a generator here. So
Hopefully it goes through.
I will tell you, though, if you look at this, it's kind of interesting, because every meeting I seem to be bringing up this grant that's come into town, that grant
Yeah,
that's
it's
come
good
into town.
news. A lot of good
We're not
news.
doing too bad lately.
We're a small town, we're
For
doing
a
good.
small town.
Yeah.
Well,
Got a lot of people out there looking for them.
so,
So Ed, if you could look on, to see
Yes.
what we have on that, that'd be great.
Be glad to.
Thanks.
Yeah, the IT for the town hall. I didn't know, is that on purpose? Second item down on the new
no,
business.
that's old age kicking in, Jim.
Okay.
That's what that is.
I was gonna bring that up.
Okay, now we have video but no audio, so we're getting there.
It's one of those language barrier
Yeah, if we
things.
knew sign language, yeah.
So are we set with the district local technical assistance program? We're pretty much looking at the Board of Health issue and the workplace safety plan.
I will get more information from Pioneer Valley on those two and bring it back to the board.
All right. Let me circle back to town hall IT needs.
Well, it did tie into the first couple of items that
That's-
I immediately looked at DLTA, and we actually did start talking at the last department heads meeting with some of the department heads concerned here in Town Hall. I have taken that and have started talking to some of the individuals on an individual basis on what their concerns and what our current capacities, strengths and weaknesses are in IT. And I have reached out to see if we can get an independent third-party assessment of our current state at no cost to the town, and I am also setting up a meeting with the vendor that we have used for some of our IT support over the past couple of years. So that is moving forward. Probably at this point in time, probably one of my, significant concerns just from the early conversations is the fact that we do have backup. That's a good start. Here in the building, we do not have a secondary point of backup outside of this building. So that's one of my biggest concerns, but that's just an early take on things.
Does that tie into when we're looking at Northampton to scan documents? Can they also serve as our backup for that as well? Or is those two different animals?
I would think they're probably two different animals, but I can ask that question.
I didn't know. I mean,
Yeah.
the scanning all the documents and sending them up there. Didn't know if you have a separate folder for our other
Well, the
items.
documents will be there, but the software running the different departments
Right.
is not going to be there.
It's different.
Right.
Yeah. And if we have a disaster, Northampton's close enough where it may affect them too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that the data is one thing. You can always reduplicate the program,
Yeah.
as long as the data was
Solid,
backed
yeah.
up,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay. Next item, invite the highway superintendent to our next meeting to update the Glendale Road easement, plus update on the winter budget. We're in the process right now of securing easement on Glendale Road. Once the easements are all secured, then the state will take and finalize this and go out to bid for construction. It would be timely now to get an update from our highway superintendent as to how many people have voluntarily donated, how many people are looking for us to do an appraisal, and where he is in the process. The winter road budget, well, as you can see, we have a winter that is like all the other winters we've had, trying to keep a handle on the budget. It would be probably timely to have him come in and give us an update.
There was a request also from the Conservation Commission, who's having a meeting on Monday night, to have someone address some of the changes on Glendale Road.
Right.
I don't know if anything has been done yet about that.
The email just came. The Glendale Road easements have been submitted and reviewed by everyone, including Conservation. This is their opportunity to stress things, like they want their sign removed and their sign put up, that kind of stuff. And that gets, with Randall, incorporated into the work operation of the actual thing. So Randall should be at that meeting to discuss that. I put it on my schedule to try to be there also, but Randall's taking the lead on this project. This is normal, Rainey. This goes. I mean, one person wanted us to take and understand that they have a underground fence for their dog, and it might get damaged. So can we take and put the fence back once the project's done? Well, yeah. I mean, you know, but these are things that you wouldn't know about unless somebody said something to you.
Right.
You know. So are we all cool with that, and have Ed invite the highway superintendent next meeting?
Yes, I will.
Next one is the fire chief. Back in May, we voted to purchase a brush truck. And then a few months ago, we voted to purchase an ambulance. It would be nice to get an update from the fire chief of what the status of these are, especially the brush truck, given the fact that it's used in the springtime for brush fires. And it's not going to take long for our seasons to change. So if the board doesn't mind, I'd like to have the fire chief here also.
And plus, maybe you can give us an update now that the funding was passed for the second shift, kind of
Yeah,
an
that'd be good.
update on that.
Sure.
So we can add that to that.
I think it's just timely to bring the department heads in every now and then.
Well, remember at the finance committee, and I brought up to the select board, is that we should have at least the major ones on a regular basis in here. So
Yeah.
maybe if Ed can plan that, so we rotate them in.
We were doing that for a while there.
We were.
We were.
We
dropped
were.
them,
I
yeah.
thought it was very informative to have them here, plus
Yeah,
the public
absolutely.
got to see it. So if Ed can set up a rotation, sounds like these two were the first on the agenda.
Any concerns, Ed?
No, not at all.
Okay, here comes the question of the day. Any other necessary business that cannot wait until the February 6th Selectmen's meeting? There will be open time for the public, I'm just... Okay. We have no signatures, we have no license and permits. Warrants. I signed PD 18-28 for $50,115.26. P 18-28 for $279,048.54. W 18-29 for $476,015.88. And warrant W 18-29A for $1,964.50. And that is all the warrants I have signed, and there is one waiting for me when we have a break. Other documents. Chapter 61, waiver of rights of first refusal, 39 Pleasant Street.
And this one, the board did vote to waive the right of first refusal at their February 16th Selectmen's meeting before the special town meeting, so I have the document to sign here.
Okay, we ratifying that vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Is that January 16th? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
this is
I'm trying to
for
read the wrong
Stephen
way.
and Christine Bashusta, Pleasant Street.
By the way, Ed, I like the way you lined this up in box. It makes a lot of sense. We can get to it a lot easier, so,
Thank you.
welcome.
Next item is letter of clarification, the building commissioner's hours for pay. We have drafted a letter to the town accountant. The Board of Selectmen would like to take this opportunity to clarify that the funding approved in the amount of $6,800 by passage of Article 17 at the special town meeting of January 16, 2018, is intended to compensate the building commissioner for 35 hours of work and benefits per week. These authorized hours of work shall be retroactive to July 1st, 2017. Vicki, thank you for your attention. I need a motion of the board to authorize this for signature.
So moved.
Second?
I
Discussion?
just one question. Okay, you want to go first?
Go ahead, Jim.
Do we have to wait for the town meeting to be certified by the Attorney General before we start doing all these things, or can we start acting on them?
No, this is not,
Okay.
this is not a bylaw, so that's not a problem.
Okay, I just
All
wanted to
right.
make sure.
This is just a budget issue.
Right.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah, if it's there's some bylaw changes, they could take 3 months before we get an answer back on those.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
But this, no.
And this
The
total
original
amount of
picture
money
signature, if you
covers
want.
the 35 hours for the fiscal year.
Right, and retroactive to July. That is my understanding of
Yeah,
it.
mine also.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I'm going
It
to
is,
sign
Chairman.
this.
It's original right here.
Why is it you have the original? I only get the old copy.
I actually have the originals.
I'm telling you, man.
I have been told not to let them out of my sight.
Yes, I know who that person is that tells you these things, too. She doesn't trust me with anything. TIF agreement approved January 16, 2018 special town meeting. I have to excuse myself from
Well,
this discussion.
Actually, I set it up because I remembered that this had to be negotiated by the interim town administrator, Bob Markle. So I actually set it up so that it could be done under my signature. So I can sign this and then have the town clerk attest to it and then send it along to J&E Precision Tool for their signatures.
Why don't we get the town clerk in here and just make it a matter of record?
That was actually the only question I had. Is there any concern with her signing it as opposed to the assistant clerk or something, just based on
Conflict?
conflict?
Oh, wasn't even thinking about that one.
All she
Yeah.
will be doing is attesting to my signature, so I see no conflict of
Yeah,
interest.
Tammy, if Lucy's there, grab her, but, you know.
My other question is, it doesn't list the schedule of,
Yes, it does.
where?
Second page.
It's in the back.
Should.
Oh, I'm not showing a second page.
You must have got the cheaper copy.
I might have messed up the scan, too, so
Okay.
it should be on page 2, about 2/3 of the way down.
Yeah, I've just got page 1 and 3.
She's on her way.
Here we go again.
This time you get to attest to my signature. And I have 2 originals, which I will sign, so the town will have an original, and J&E Tool will have an original.
40% is 4,000. Okay, so 20.
I'm just smiling at Virginia, just laughing about some of the stuff that goes on. It's like, okay, they're related to them, they're neighbors to them.
It's a small town, Charlie.
I guess, you know? It's a good thing Bob and I got some distance between us.
That you know about.
That we know about. This full cow gets over to my pasture, we're in trouble. Very good. Next is minutes to be approved, June 13th, 2017. What happened? This thing got missing in action?
Yeah, I read it already. I saw no changes to be made. So I will make a motion to approve June 13th, 2017 minutes.
I'm fine with it, too. Discussion?
I'm wondering why it says this meeting was not recorded. That seems odd. Oh, it was in the morning. This was the,
10
Yeah.
a.m.
that's right. Now I remember right.
05.
Got it.
Or,
Yeah, that was one of those special meetings we had to have.
To buy the Cook Road property.
Right, and that's
Yes.
why, and that's the reason why it ended up not getting recorded, recorded by the camera. Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
So moved. All right, next selectmen's meeting is February 6th, that's correct, that's a Tuesday. And February 20th, we are going to start the task of putting together articles for a Springtown meeting. There is no articles at this point. I am going to open this meeting up to the public. Do I really need to read this narrative?
I hate to go back this far, and it didn't happen, but did you say this was being recorded in the beginning?
At the very beginning,
Did you? Okay.
even though it wasn't being.
That's what I mean.
Did I know?
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. My comment or question or
Thought?
being thought, special town meeting. It seemed to go very well. The setup was a little different, which is something that we had all voted on. And but what's hard as a resident of the town and a voter from the town, what's hard is that we elected you guys, we elected me for my position, and we elected the finance committee. Yet, every time they went to speak, they got knocked down, or it seemed like they weren't allowed to give their reasons why they weren't recommending things, and in the very end, they weren't even talking. They just sat there. They knew they couldn't go up to the podium. And it seemed very hard that they work for us. They try to come up with the information for us to make the best decisions, yet at the meeting, it just seemed like it was going right over.
The select board did not shut them down.
I know you guys didn't. And that's why I say I don't know if it's something that
And
it just...
I myself was being personally very cautious to make sure that I spoke at the right mic and spoke the right language for the mic relative to making motions versus questions,
Yeah.
which made it difficult. Your comments and stuff need to be addressed to the town moderator.
Yeah.
He ran the meeting.
Yeah.
And he is in control of that meeting, much as I chair these meetings. But it's being misdirected, Tammy. We
Yeah.
can't do anything about it. He's
Okay.
the town moderator.
I was kind of curious if you noticed that also then.
Oh, it was noticed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was certainly noticed.
And also, he makes an announcement that we're all there as individuals, not as Board of Selectmen or Finance Committee, because it's his meeting. And I think one of the rules, which is good, is you can't go up more than twice on a topic, because otherwise you get people reoccurring and just fighting. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good rule.
Well,
But
I was concerned with that with my note cards of it's like, can I,
I know.
and it's like, I don't know if I can do this or not. And he let me, but I was precise with my questions.
yeah.
So-
Even myself, because I was up there plenty, was trying to remember how many times I answered or questioned anything.
Yeah.
Because I would lose track, because when you're at that microphone and you're trying to explain, and some of us have had lifetime experiences of talking in front of large groups, and and are comfortable. Some of us don't want to stand in front of 3 people in an auditorium and talk. And it makes it real difficult when they have to go to the microphone and they're, and I appreciate that totally.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wrote down my questions on cards, because I didn't want to get flustered once I got up there and forget and not get answers to the things that I wanted to know.
Another thing that was brought to my attention by a resident was that they believed that the articles, where the article sits here and it says recommended or not recommended by the Finance Committee, why it doesn't have a line there that says recommended or not recommended by the Select Board.
Oh.
Because even though the Select Board puts articles forward, we don't necessarily, our position usually is if an article is going forward, we're in agreement with it.
Right.
But sometimes we put articles forward because a department or a committee or somebody wants that going forward that we may have a difference of opinion on.
Or it could be by petition. that we
Right.
have to put it on.
And I'm thinking that, and I got to talk to this group about this, but maybe at the annual town meeting, we actually have a line that says the selectmen's vote is yay, may,
Yeah.
something.
So is that something that has to go through the moderator, or is that something that you guys can
No,
vote
we
on?
do that.
You guys,
Yeah,
okay.
we do that. The other thing that was missing is this town meeting didn't have the recommendations of the capital committee.
Oh. We didn't have a second backup either for the moderator this time.
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did.
He
He
was
just
there.
wasn't introduced?
No, he,
No, he normally introduces them saying,
that was
He was
Carl.
there, but I don't think he was
He was
introduced.
sitting at
Okay.
the table there.
Yeah,
near
Carl was there.
Janine, yeah.
yeah. Well, I saw him up there, but it was never introduced like normal. But, okay, thank you.
I also think that, it was a very snowy night, for one thing. I think that in the beginning, the Finance Committee did have a lot of airtime to talk about some of the early articles as the night went on. I think that there were some circumstances that happened where a few of the members either left or one of them didn't show up from the Finance Committee. So I think that it was a process of things over time, and there were a lot of reasons why
Yeah.
maybe not everybody felt heard.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
In response, Kathy Libery, Gun Road. In response to your recommendations for future town meetings, if you're going to put how the select board feels, it could be 3-1, 2-2 on the article. Well, the same thing with the Finance Committee. Just because the Finance Committee did not recommend or did recommend something, it doesn't mean that that was unanimous either. So if you're going to get picky about the articles, because I was under the impression if there was an article, the select board was in favor of it, and you're saying, well, perhaps it was a petition. So if it's a split decision on the select board and you represent and print that, we should maybe have the same information from the Finance Committee. So maybe it's not a unanimous decision with the Finance Committee recommending or not. I don't know if it's important, it's just that kind of thing. It's something to consider if people want that much transparency. But I felt that the moderator did say everybody was there as an individual, vote as an individual, and I think that the select board has every right as individuals to get up and voice how they feel. The same with the finance. I don't think anybody was turned away or shut down. I didn't see anybody from the Finance Committee being told as an individual, you had your time, sit down. I felt that it was a very well-run town meeting.
There were 2 individuals that I saw that were told that they had.
Yeah.
That they had exceeded their
Yeah,
time.
right.
Right, but they weren't Finance Committee people, they were,
One was.
one was, okay, okay.
You see, it's like here, the reason that clock is behind you is so that I can see how much time you're spending on the podium to judge when I think it's time to say, okay, we need to move on. Because you'll see what they call the classic filibuster, where people will just keep on getting up to the microphone and they'll play tag team with like 3 individuals with the same topic. And I respect Robert when he does that, because we would be there until the crack of dawn with certain issues.
But people do feel that it's run with an iron hand sometimes. I've got many comments on that, so that's just something we need to pass along to Robert.
I think we just did.
Okay. If we're being recorded.
Yes, to be broadcast at a later date.
The question I had also, and I'm not sure because I don't remember this happening in the past, but I did notice that the Finance Committee recommended things that were not financial in nature. Is that typical?
That's true.
That is not typical in my history with the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, one had to do with the COA, reporting structure. There were a few of them, and I don't know if that's...
The other thing, I don't remember, is it typical, is it traditional that they recommend or not recommend CPA?
That was,
That was when they said no to.
They had never.
You have to come up here.
In the past, they have never,
no, they've never done that.
and they'd put right there, it wasn't in their purview.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, and I'll tell you, I'm not happy, but Michael and I had words.
Hey, that said, is there anybody else that wants public time?
But I think these are good points that we could try to do it for town meeting.
Question. The last meeting, a lot of discussion about the 61, 61A, 61B that's going on. We called Farm Bureau to talk about the situation. Farm Bureau indicated that this 61A problem is statewide. There are tremendous loopholes in it. Towns are getting shortchanged. I don't know if the Waynes have indicated to the town what their intentions are on the property. But the one that you just got, the Bashistas went from A to Z. They put the parcel up, they notified the town, the back taxes will be paid. My question here is, can we do something that's very similar to a house closing to get clear title on a house? If you say, this piece of property was under 61A, on the day of sale, the 61A ends with this seller. If the next guy in line wants to do it, he can start a new one. Because they have done the 61 on the forestry, and they've done nothing. Talking to the state forester, he said he tried several attempts for them to exercise the 61. They did nothing. They've enjoyed the tax break on all three of these properties and have done nothing. It doesn't really seem fair. And I'm wondering, as the town, can we put something in place that says, if somebody has a 61, 61A, B, when they decide to sell it, whether it's developed or whether it goes back into 61, can we say, this is the end of the line for this owner. If the next guy wants to, then he can sign up when he takes. Is it doable or is it not?
I can't give you the answer, but I can tell you we've referred this to town council, and we're waiting for a response from town council. That's part of those executive sessions.
Okay.
But I suspect because it's a statewide problem,
That's got to go through the legislature.
I have a feeling that this thing is going to get muddled down just
Yeah.
knowing how the system works.
I didn't know if the town had any leeway
I
on
don't
that,
see anything straightforward, yes or no. That's why I went to town council.
because I don't know why it would be any different if there was a parcel of property that had a tax lien on it. In order to get clear title, you have to pay those, somebody has to
I
pay the
know, because I
the back
deal with
taxes.
that with other issues all the time, but, yeah.
I
That's
just.
why it was referred to town council.
Okay, I was just asking to see
Yeah.
if it was doable. So it seemed more fair anyways.
So, okay, we are now going to go into executive session. Roll call vote. The executive session is Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Section A, 30A, Section 21, for items 6, 3, 2, and 7, to consider purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiation position of the public body, this being the Southampton Greenway, to discuss strategies with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if in an open meeting may be detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigating position of the public body. The chair so declares, to conduct strategy sessions, preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel, and to conduct collective bargaining sessions and/or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, fire chief's contract, and to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant in aid requirements. Approval for executive session minutes is what that's all about, December 1927. The chair so declares. Do I need a roll call vote? We'll start.
Now,
Road nine?
you need to read that last line here.
Oh, the selectmen will reconvene in open session. Thank you. That was a good catch.
Okay.
I missed that one.
Road nine.
Martin, aye.
Kaneki, aye.
Labrie, aye.
We are now going to call for a 5-minute recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Don't egg them on, Joe.
We're on, being recorded live.
Live in concert. Oh,
New mic's off.
my mic's on. All right. Ryan, we back on?
Yes, we are.
Okay, Board of Selectmen's meeting, Town of Southampton, June 23rd. It is now 8:15. We've just gotten out of executive session. This meeting's still being recorded and broadcast live. We're returning to open session. The Board of Selectmen has negotiated a contract with the fire chief, and we have all come to terms. This will be retroactive to July 1st, 2017. I need a motion to accept the contract.
So moved.
Second.
No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. The fire chief now has a 3-year contract effective July 1st, 2017. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
You don't have to do anything on the building commissioner, correct?
Or we did that in open time.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Good night, everyone.